It's with great pleasure that we welcome our speaker this evening, Margaret Koolman, who is joining us from near Stroud for her talk entitled, Let's Get Personal, Sun to Mars. Margaret is an international astrologer and author with 40 years of experience. She specializes in soul astrology, focusing on everyday life from the soul's perspective. And she is the author of 3 books, including Soul Purpose Astrology. Margaret has given several talks over the years to the Aquarius Severn Astrological Society, and we're absolutely delighted to have you back. So I'll hand over to you now, Margaret. Thank you.
Thank you, Gillian. Yes, lovely. Right. That's got rid of my face off the screen, so I don't have to see myself, which is a great boon. Yes, I haven't actually given a Zoom talk before, so I hope you understand. I'm a bit uncertain how to begin. It's we spend a lot of time thinking about the stuff outside us, don't we? All the things going on, the state of the world, the lockdown and the virus. My goodness, extraordinary. What they keep saying, unprecedented. Well, in my memory, certainly, but who knows? So it's out there. It all feels as if it's out there. But actually, of course, there's no difference from all the time we're living anyway. Our whole experience is actually internal. And it's so easy to forget this. I think when everything's smooth and you have time, then you do notice. And I think one of the virtues of the lockdown has been for many people that we've actually had the space to sort of take stock, to re-notice how it is, how we feel about just our surroundings, the surroundings we actually have, because we can't get about and spread so far. So my feeling about this whole situation is that it is rather a distraction from what was actually happening before anyway, and has been building up for many years. And that is, of course, the state of the world, the state of civilization, the state of business, banking, food on the planet, the state of the planet. All these things, it feels as if there is a winding up of something and ready for we don't know what. And then, just as all astrologers were waiting for that great conjunction in a Capricorn in January, and boom, there it is, the virus. Let's all focus on the virus, and perhaps but these other ideas are coming back. That's really what's most important, I feel. And facing that, it's easy to feel completely impotent in the face of the whole world and individual, the face of governments and banks, an individual. What can we do? I think it's really important to remember that it's not actually about the physicality of things, it's the energy of things. That's where it all happens. If we go to the energy of things, it's quite a different story. It depends then on the state of our energy, our personal energy. That's the bit we can deal with, and that is very effective. I tend to think of the more conscious we become, the more awake we become, the faster the energy vibrates. It's like the nearer you, there's more space, as it were, between whatever the bits are that we're made of on a material level. A bit simplistic, but So if we're vibrating much faster and faster and more space in our consciousness, we spread out the consciousness, become conscious of more and more, and join our consciousness. We all link in, we all realize that it's just one thing, one consciousness. So we become aware of that. Then those who are asleep to all of this, still vibrating at a slower level, not so effective in the actual movement or evolution of things, the slower vibration. So the more of us who can wake up and become aware of the oneness of things, the better. So we who do this, the pods of people who do get together knowing these things, I think become really important points, link points. And the tipping of the balance, which is required for transformation, actually is with us. It's not about one individual facing the enormousness of everything. It's one consciousness and linking in. So the plan is to wake up, really. I like to use pictures to sort of, in a way, not to focus the mind, but to defocus the mind. So I'm going to talk a bit about how it is coming in, how I see that, together with some pictures. And I'm going to see if I can get my PowerPoint thing happening, which I practiced earlier. So forgive me if it doesn't, but I'm going to see what I can do. And please tell me, Gillian, you must tell me if it doesn't come up. No, I didn't do it. I've got to do share screen first. Okay. Do you have my picture? Can I ask you, Gillian?
Yes, we do.
Good. Thank you. I've noticed that I can see it, but not necessarily other people. So I have to ask you. I needed that. Okay. So this gorgeous golden light in the sky. When we are, this is my story anyway, the way I like to see things, the spirit, that lovely phrase, we come in trailing clouds of glory, coming from the wholeness, the space of light and life and love and knowing that everything is fine. And this is the spirit coming in. And it's coming in for this lifetime to the earth. The earth in all its amazing vulnerability, delicacy, all its fine balances. And we as spirit approach the earth for a lifetime here. Imagine the spirit arriving and all that beautiful radiance suddenly finding this, rising up around it, all the stuff of the physical world, and being uncertain, losing confidence even. That feeling that we really only have a small amount of effectiveness when it comes to earthy things. There's the feeling of, well, this is me, this is how I am. I'm talking about the sun in the chart. This is how I am. I'd like you to think of your sun sign. This is me, it's the best I can do. And what am I supposed to do here? sometimes it can be quite egotistical. But hang on, this is me. It's got to be this way. I've got it right. And sometimes everything becomes just so materialistic and solid. It's like even our eyeballs are solid. We can no longer see that light. Unless we're, clairvoyant people have an easier time of believing in all that stuff, I think. It can be quite depressing. I'm bringing it down so that it's like this is us coming in and looking at it from the most difficult side of it. So we're going to need to be active. We're going to need Mars. So here comes the energy of the solar plexus in the body. The radiance of the heart, it comes down, it's just energy, wanting to really survive, keep the body going so that the spirit can continue to be here. The solar plexus is about this, do I fight or do I run? It's discovering about how much energy we have. Because in a way, if you think about it, there's that solar plexus, it's our motivation center, isn't it? Mars is our motivation, which is really about wanting. I think I've thought about motivation. It sounds a fine thing, but actually it's about wanting. So we want to have what we need to survive, working hard to get it, reaching burnout on occasions, or complete exhaustion, yeah. Sometimes irritable because of frustration, or that time when you're so active you can't stop. Think of the sign of your Mars and the way in which that energy actually behaves when frustrated. Sometimes the not knowing what you want, not knowing what to do. So then the energy of the sun perhaps going up, radiating up through the throat. I put Venus at the throat. There are some systems that don't do that, and they are also good. But the one I use puts Venus at the throat. So it would be the radiance of the heart going down to the stomach and up to the throat. And there we are, you get the lump in the throat really when things are really difficult. Or the sound of the voice coming through. The reaching out to people with sound. And the knowing that it should have been good here. It should be possible to connect. You know, isn't this what is this for? We come here to be with others, or we wouldn't have come to Earth. So, you know, the connecting. And we don't know how to do that, perhaps. The difficulty of finding that other people are so different, and maybe they don't want to connect, and trying to be what it is that people want. Pleasing others in order that they be there and not go away. The difficulty of Venus. And then feeling perhaps that one is not okay. Think of your Venus, the sign of it. Maybe thinking that you're not good enough, actually. Not acceptable, not lovable. And feeling that perhaps that must be the truth of it. So a feeling that one can't love oneself. In trying to sort the whole thing out, the energy can go up further into the brow, the head, the mind working away, trying to solve all the problems, and actually probably creating most of them by thinking about things in a way that doesn't work. All the different thoughts we have, the different opinions we have, the different way we can see things going wrong, and the stance we take. Sometimes just looking on at the amazing mess other people can make of things. And maybe there's, I love these little birds, they're all doing something different. And these birds on the right hand end, that little one, there's the one who makes the criticisms, and then there's that little one looking at him thinking, oh wow, that's clever. Gosh, he's clever. So it's kind of, you know, do I make my decisions, or do I think somebody else is better than I am at that? Worshipping cleverness instead of knowing anything about wisdom. So the struggle, your Mercury sign, where you struggle and maybe create your problems. It's amazing how how problems can, they're so personal, aren't they? Other people don't have the same ones, which always seems to me an extraordinary thing. That what's a problem to one person, that same situation could be perfectly fine for someone else. It's like, if I could just get that attitude, maybe. Anyway, there we go, creating them. And if the energy rises further, we reach the crown center, the moon. And the moon, which should really be able to have connected us back to where we, as it were, came from, gets tangled in all the stuff, the things, all the thoughts that go on in the head, all the things we think and the things we hear, and everything that goes on and happens, until it's quite covered and full of sort of all that unconscious stuff, the early stuff, the conditioning, the thoughts your parents had, your moon sign, the mother, and all that was going on with her. And yet this is the place to be receptive. We're receptive. We're receptive to all the stuff that goes on. And the moon sign is our particular take on it. These are the personal planets. We have, of course, also the Jupiter and Saturn, but I think in the first instance, when we're just in that survival mode that I've just described, we're not making proper contact with the Jupiter and Saturn. It's like not having legs, just the body from the stomach upwards. And of course, we're not grounded. We're not grounded in the facts. We're not grounded in our true experience, just in our reactions to it. We have only our reactions at that point. So inside, I think it all comes together. The heart rises up and calls for assistance. You have to be very single-pointed. So the heart must rise up through our love of a sense that there is love for something true, we don't know what, and reach to that pinnacle in the brow, the pituitary gland, the Mercury, and reach up from there. And the spirit can at last reach this poor little personality, this toolkit that it brought with it of skills, All these pieces that thought that they were everything, they're just pieces of a toolkit. That's what our personality is, I think. Carefully brought in, piece by piece, from past experiences. And each piece comes in with its own, maybe, lifetime of whatever was going on then and whatever was going wrong then. Having completely forgotten that the Spirit brought it all in, it thinks that it is just a little thing, and in order to protect itself creates this ego which is not Spirit, a sort of construction, something that we make out of ourselves, the personality makes out of itself, and rolls it together into something that feels strong enough to handle life. The Spirit reconnects then and has a look. This character with his shield and spear is my take on that sort of awake part of the soul, which comes to have a little look. What is going on with this toolkit of mine? What's happened? And it looks quite smooth, that covering. This is the ego, which the little personality pieces are holding up to protect itself because it thinks it needs protection. And he looks through and sees Venus trying to please him, and Mars trying to grasp and survive and run away from the feared things. So there's teaching to be done from this higher self, this soul, this spirit, whatever we think of it as. And the teaching begins with reminding the personality that it is just a bunch of characteristics, and placing them carefully on this body that has been created here. I'm sure you've seen this rainbow of the healing rainbow to be placed, the colours placed on each of the chakras. So what I would like you to be thinking at this point is the signs that you have these planets in as you look up the row, and feeling those signs actually in your body, if you would. Now, of course, when you get down to the body proper and everything is organised in its place, the Jupiter can open out and expand. The first thing the personality is likely to do with that is try to get more for itself. It's like, it's all available, good, I can have it. And it's wanting to pull it in. And the Saturn then becomes, I need to control my circumstances. So they need some schooling. Everything has to be turned somehow the other way. The plan as I see it is that the sun is like the door to spirit. And on the heart center, we have the sign, as it were. We have to be that. One can't just be spirit just like that. It doesn't, especially not at the beginning. I think it's something we aim to arrive at, maybe. But to start with, and using astrology as the helping hand, we need to be the sun sign and allow it to be so full of pride that it can radiate. And then the light of the sun, the light of the spirit, reaches to Mars and it reaches to Venus, so that they can operate for the sun's sake. With that light coming up, of course, it clears the Mercury, the mind, and we'll get to the moon. I want to take us through some more. So what I want to do now, what do I want to do? I'm going to keep going with these pictures. So bear with me. It did occur to me that as we get to sort of forming the keys, you might like to write them down, because it's difficult to remember neat things. And somehow if you can create these keys for yourself, they are so neat. So we'll move forwards. Each of these centers, each of these planets has their function. So Mars is energizing. I mean, I know you know these things, so bear with me doing such very fundamental stuff, but it's seeing it all in this context. So Venus is to connect us with each other. Mercury is where we can wake up. We have to be able to notice all the things that go on in the head which are not awake. And we have to be prepared to own up to that. So it's however clever one is, that's not really the function of Mercury. Mercury is to be awake, alert to what is actually happening, without reacting to it, without passing it, allowing it to go down to Mars, where there could be just all these reactions. So Mercury must be awake and receptive to what it sees. It has to be ready with questions to ask when it doesn't know, so that the information can gather and gather. The moon needs to be clear. This is where the inspiration comes in. So the moon needs to be empty and receptive. Mercury present and open. Venus needs to be able to love, and the love is not her own, it's the love of spirit that comes through her. Venus expresses the love of spirit. And when you can do that, you love everything. You love everybody. It's not a thing you have to do. You live in a field of love. It shows in the picture how that would be. And of course then you are loving yourself, because you can't be in that field without feeling the love in yourself also. It's quite a neat way of noticing whether you're actually allowing the Spirit's love through you or not. If you can love everything else but not yourself, you haven't quite got it. And the energy then is to express a spirit in action. It's like offering our energy to fulfill what the heart knows to be the right thing, what the heart wishes to achieve. Then the growth of Jupiter is about giving, not receiving. And the restraint of Saturn, the holding back, it's holding oneself back and learning from our experience. So you get the grounded wisdom. Now, all of this was just the signs of your planets. But of course, where the Earth is concerned, we have the houses too. I think of the houses a bit like feng shui. They the areas that they just there is the tradition of it, but I think it's also a reality. But never mind. So the houses. These are just my tiny little. I do love key phrases. So I've just got little phrases for each of the houses. What you might be asking, or what this personality might be asking in each of the houses. So the first house is definitely what is out there. I mean, I can't really come out unless it's going to be conducive to my coming out. So you get the sign on the ascendant there. I think of those signs as being the attitudes to that area. So it depends what you have in your first house as to what your attitude to what is out there actually is. If that sentence made sense. I'm just thinking perhaps you don't need examples. Do you know enough to do this? So if I just potter through. The second house, well, am I enough? It's about self-worth, isn't it? All of that, you know, have I got enough? Am I enough to ask for a living? Because it's your earnings, isn't it? And I notice people aren't prepared to pay you if you don't think you're worth anything. So you have to have self-worth. So anyway, am I enough? And the third house is really, yes, I'm going to tell them, this is what I'm going to say, and I'm going to say it like this. And I like communicating, or I don't like communicating, or I feel nervous of it. It depends what's there in the house. I'm hoping that you're looking at this with your own houses in your eyes, in your mind. So the fourth house, what sign you've got down there, it's I need this to get my balance, because it's from here that I will reach up to the heights, the top of the chart. Lovely. I don't know if you can see my cursor moving about, never mind. So the balance, so that the 10th house can function properly. Difficult to operate your 10th house without a bit of 4th house balance going on. And the 5th house, sort of, hey, I think of the 5th house as the spirit's playground. Creativity is always new, and of course the spirit never repeats itself, so it's always now, isn't it? And now is never that now that ever it was. So it's kind of new, and the 5th house is anything that gets you into the present, which I think is why sport comes in, and children. You have to be in the present, don't you? Anyway, creativity. Yes, what happens when I let go of the me that stops me from being spontaneous? So lovely. It depends what you've got there. And then come on. You know, we just got to do it, haven't we, in the end? Just get on with it, life. This is what I do. This is what I'm doing each day. This is how I get up. This is where the work I go to. This is how my body operates, my health, yeah. My colleagues there every day, or not, depending. You've got Aries in there, you'd really perhaps rather not have colleagues. Do it on your own. And then who's there? Who's there? Who am I relating to? Who are you? Just to know, not to get kind of stuck in, but just to know the other one who's there, so that you can do a balance job between you. Nice. Safer to know who's there. This is where we jump in. And is there really room? Is there room for us, or is there room for the both of us? You have to get to grips with things in the 8th house, don't you? It's underneath. You turn the stones over. When you live with somebody, one way or another, you get below the surfaces. Is there room in that house that you have? What is your attitude to whether there's room or not, how much room you need? And then what does it all mean? And what does it all mean to me? This is the sign you have there in your 9th house there. That's what it means. That's your attitude to it. It's the attitude to the whole of life. It's all of it. What does it all mean? And there you stand on the platform, the top of the chart between 9 and 10, mid-heaven, the platform where everybody can see you. And you hope that they can see what's best in you, your mid-heaven, the sign you have there, and any planet you've got there. And this is your way, my way to be out there. When I'm seen, this is what's happening. This is your sign for here, your attitude to being on that platform. But actually, of course, you're with everybody else as well. And this is the lovely link happening, the groups. This is where it stops being about you on the platform. Get down off the platform, join the crowd, be part of the group, or lead the group, but still be part of it. And then with all of that being windows on the outside world, looking through those attitudes at what is apparently apparent to you out there, we come to the 12th house, which is what's happening on the inside. So bearing the houses in mind as well, because after all the spirit came to be here, and these houses are the way it's going to reach being in the earth. This is the sun being in the earth, but radiant, continuing radiant. What is required to be radiant? A sense of personal integrity and pride. Pride in that enables you to stand tall, to let your radiance show, the sign of your spirit. When your personality understands, when our personality understands, that the spirit is actually running the show anyway and never leaves us being who we are or what we are, when personality realizes this, there is a great relaxation and everything comes into integrity. It all lines up. The ego doesn't get much of a look in. It does its thing, it's habitual, but one sort of hears it. So this is why we do these, one chakra at a time, one planet at a time, so that we can spot it, when it is that the ego has got a handle on it again. We've sort of slid into sleep or semi-sleep, lost ourselves again. So let's see if we can find a key. You can find a key in your chart for how you can notice and get back in touch with your sun the way it's meant to be, by its sign and its house placing. So we could ask and think, while I say these things, think what's right for you. Bearing in mind that the shadows come across the heart, like clouds across the sky, how would you be if that shadow wasn't there and you actually feel proud of yourself? So if I'd like you to sort of really feel that, the sense of being tall and open and strong in the heart, knowing that your heart will lead you. What am I when most open-hearted? When I am radiant? Signs that may feel strange about the word radiant would be perhaps Virgo, Scorpio. But of course, every sign is radiant. The spirit comes through all the signs, and there's no way you're going to stop the spirit being radiant. So they can be a radiant Virgo, beautiful, elegant, and a dancer, as it were. Every sign can be radiant. So this will give you the sign, the keynote to the sign. How is it? What is it that I feel when I am my sign radiant? Now this is very much who you are. And to find the house, we might say, where am I best expressing that shining light? Why did my spirit come, do you see? It came for that house. It came to express majorly through that house. So where does my spirit want me to shine my light in the world? That gives us the key to the house. The keys are to bring you back now. I just did something with the computer. Yes. The keys are to bring you back awake and centered when you have fallen into the negative or pessimistic side of whatever planet we're looking at. So they're short sentences or short ideas that remind you who you are, what you need to be doing. So the key will energize the planet and direct it towards its best and highest function. Okay, the sun. Venus. Venus saw beauty, wanted beauty, but saw that the world, there all sorts of things were wrong with the world. So it lost the beauty. And here, if you will look to your Venus, the sign of your Venus, it's how you recognize love, how you feel that love should be expressed. Your most natural way of expressing love is Venus. So that's what one would say. I think when we love others but not ourselves, it's like standing close to a waterfall and feeling the spray from the water instead of standing under the waterfall. The waterfall of love is inside ourselves. Other people can never love us in the way that we need to be loved. They might be loving us, actually, I shouldn't put it like that. They might be loving us beautifully, but we won't receive it. We won't feel it. It won't make us feel better. We have to be standing in the waterfall of love inside in order to feel the love that someone else has for us. So once you're in that waterfall, you know you're okay. You love yourself anyway, and you love the others, and you love them all. The radiance of the spirit through the throat. So the key questions I would ask you, how do I need to express love? Because that's the point. It's the tool of love. Loving expression is like that. It's like the sign of your Venus. How do I need to express love? And can I express that love to myself? So that's the sign. And where in life is expressing love and beauty and all of that most important to me? As though this is where your spirit wants to express love specifically, in that house. Well, having got Venus sorted, we look at the energy going down and the light shining down from the heart into the Mars. So the light of the spirit draws the energy up, and the action can come more from the heart. It comes out through the arms, really, the arms level with the heart. Action. The sign that Mars is in is what is my body's energy style? If you have Mars in Aquarius, it's going to be fairly nervous energy and needs to be treated carefully and like one treats the nervous system. If your Mars is in Taurus, it's going to be more earthy and grounded and physical. So the other important thing, not just giving the energy out, but where can I recharge my batteries? By being active. So this is the house where your Mars is. You need to go there and operate it in order to recharge your batteries. Some people recharge their batteries by being extremely active. They might tire the body, but they feel better for it. It regenerates the motivation force. So where can I recharge my batteries? By being active. So you get your keys in there. The thing about the solar plexus, as I understand it, it needs to be relaxed, because if it's tight, we are not so responsive as we would be. We need that sensitivity to conditions. We need the information about conditions, inner and outer, in order to respond appropriately in an energetic sense. And the solar plexus can be quite tight when it's ego bound. The spirit shining down sort of like, oh, well, thank goodness for that. It's not, this warrior doesn't have to go and make his own mind up. He is being led by this wise central force. So, okay. I'll try not to touch the screen. I mean, it's the keyboard. So here's the mind. We've shot up to Mercury. Mercury is the door that links awareness, our awareness, to the one mind. So we have to wake up. And what we're waking up to. I mean, sometimes I think it can feel, when you've been thinking about all this stuff, the outer world, waking up would seem to be more aware even than we are already of what's going on out there. But that's not really waking up. It's like being in a dream where you think the dream is real. And it's like, oh, I've got to pay such attention in this dream so that I don't make mistakes. But actually, of course, and I'm sure you know all this, waking up is realizing that what's out there is what you think is out there. It's what you see out there, what you perceive. It does bear some relation to what's out there, but we don't really know. Everybody describes what's out there differently. And it's always true for the self, for the one describing it. So this is this little bird. He's just looking, and he's got a nice clear blue sky. And he's prepared to be himself. And you'll take it the way it is, in the moment, waking up to presence, waking up to the spirit of yourself. So, the question, what of my problems do I create? What kind of problems do I create? That's the sign of your Mercury. And for the house, what attitude supports me in being positive? So the house where your Mercury is, the attitude of that sign in that house, so it's what area of life, whereabouts in life, does it support you in being positive? Positive is that faster vibration I was talking about. So we generally want that. Okay, and then to the moon. The moon is still in contact with everything, with life out there, but it's as though everything can hold it. I love that picture, and it was the same evening I took it as the other one, where the moon was all caught into the tree. This is in touch with the tree, in touch with life, but floating free at the same time. This is one aspect of it. So this is your crown center, it's your moon sign. Your moon sign in touch with life, but not letting life cover it over. The unconscious is full of all sorts of stuff, but it is quite possible to sort of push it gently to one side, the bags of stuff, like the stuff one might put in one's attic. And we have to trust. We have to let go. There's all those old fears stuck up there. So there are several questions. It's the child in us, I think. I know it's mother, but it's also the child, because child and mother are one thing, really, aren't they, at birth? Just one thing that has been in the process of being divided. So what does the child in me still hanker for? Something of that sign, something of that house. Still really, what would make my inner child happy? What does he want? Now, sometimes those things are not going to be the best, most useful things. So it's also a good idea to ask, how does that help me? You know, if you have that, or if you do that, whatever it is, how does it help you? How does it hinder me? Or does it? It may not hinder you at all. And is there a way that could help me reach to spirit, surrender to spirit? So what the moon really needs is to be empty. Empty of self. It's let go. The spirit rules. To know and believe and trust that the spirit rules and it's safe. So it's letting go of smallness. It's not to embrace anything, but just to let go and be open. Open and empty. And being empty, it will be filled. So then we're open to be absolutely inspired. The moon center, the crown, I think it's beautiful that it's called the crown, and it has the silver light in. It's a beautiful living spiritual connection. It needs to be supported. The moon sign in your chart needs to be supported by the sun. That is to say, the sun sign needs to take care of the moon sign. So you know that the child needs to be looked after. Children do. Saturn needs to take care of the moon as well, being the base of that whole spinal column, and the moon at the top. I love that image that this green began with, you know, the moon lights the lamp of Saturn. But the sun also. So if your sun sign doesn't take care of your moon sign, it's again a sign that your ego is taking over again. It's sometimes interesting, difficult to put these together, the signs. You know, if you've got them square, for instance, by aspect, it takes a bit of. So you have to do the Mercury thing where you ask the question and then wait without thinking for the answer to arrive, because it's always there. It's just that thinking about things tends to push inspiration out. So the mind has to be still. I was taught to call it the silent moment that happens after every question. When you ask a question, there is a little moment when the answer can come from a better source. So I'm thinking, I feel as if I've been talking for ages, and we looked at the positives of the Saturn and Jupiter. I've got very quick questions for Saturn and Jupiter if you would like them. And I think I'm going to, where does this come to? Yes, we don't need to do all the pictures, I guess. I'll stop sharing for a minute. Perhaps you can see me now. Thank you. Yes. Yes, the Jupiter and Saturn questions, I think they're lovely. Because the thing about Jupiter, if you're not operating your Jupiter by its sign and house, you tend to feel stuck. You probably know these things anyway, but so I like to ask, how do I need to grow? And how can I share my gifts? Because of course Jupiter is the pipe of receiving and giving. It has to be open, so the giving has got to happen, and in a way sometimes the giving has to happen first before there's any room to receive, get the water flowing. So how can I share my gifts? And the other thing is that where Jupiter is where we get encouraged. So it's good to look into the house to see if the encouragement is there. Some people, I've noticed, don't necessarily appreciate the encouragement they're actually getting. As if they want it from somewhere else. It's interesting when you have Jupiter in the 12th house, which of course is inner, and it tends to mean that the outside world doesn't feel very encouraging. I mean, they might be encouraging you, but it doesn't feel like it. The encouragement comes from inside. So one has to go in there and make sure it's happening. Saturn is, I was so sorry to miss that talk. I would love to have seen that talk about Saturn that lots of you got. Oh. Anyway, as I have it, it's about, what do I fear? What do I fear? Because we try to control things because we fear what will happen if we don't, I think. And the thing would be that we need, our authority comes from experience. If you've experienced something, people don't question you. You've just got a feel about you, which they know you know what you're talking about. So when we need authority, we need to have experienced, and we need to have learnt from our experience. So that's the thing. When something is wrong around your Saturn, or upsetting, or you're fearful, or there's lack, scarcity, whatever it is, what innate skill am I resisting developing? Because there'll be something there. It'll be something of the Saturn's own sign and house that you need to develop. And the experience is there, and you might be resisting it. So it's just a question. And having had that experience, where would I best use it? This is very much the house, of course. Where should I be using my skills? Because again, we might well be not doing it because we fear. We fear failure. We fear ridicule, all sorts of things. I feel horribly aware at this point. I might just be speaking for myself, but I don't think I'm the only one.